Good morning, everyone. My name is Shivani Tyagi, and today we are going to start with our current affair with this thought that we are going to move with consistency, and we'll be understanding and writing all the keywords that I'll be teaching you. And make sure that you have a separate space for your current affairs, because we know that how much important role current affairs plays in UPSC, and not only UPSC, any government examination. So make sure that you are moving with this positive thought. Now let's start with our first current affair. Let's see what it says. So we are going to talk about NGT clears 92,000 crores Great Nicobar Project. Very important, not only in the perspective of prelims, but for mains also, right? So as I imagine that there is a green island. Good morning. So there is a green island and it is like far away in the ocean, right? And this island is Great Nicobar Island that we are talking about, India's endemic and Nicobar Island. So this island is very special. Why it is special? Why? Because of coral reefs, because of rare turtles that come here and that they lay eggs, and because of tribal communities also, and for dense forests also, right? And when we talk about this kind of news where environmental and development both are related, and government is trying to approach sustainable development, make sure that you are using it, understanding each and everything, because in case study every year we see like one question definitely from there, right? So make sure that you are understanding each and every keyword from here, right? So now government says that this place is very crucial, very important for us. So now we want to build a project over here, right? And this island is not only important for security or trade or development, right? But it is important for economic purposes, for other purposes also, right? So now they say that we will be building a big project over here, right? So before telling you this, I want to tell you that this project is not random day decided by government. No, this project was first decided by Niti Aayog. This project was basically proposed by Niti Aayog, and the vision was in 2021, right? So the vision was, maritime economic gateway, reduce dependency on foreign ports, and basically to have control, to basically, have the understanding of this, sea routes also, right? Now, when we talk about this, that why this project, plays so much of important role. So this island is located in a very global sea route, right? And when we talk about sea route, what do we see? We are talking about trade over here, right? So this is very important, especially near the Malacca Strait. It is very important for us, right? For this portion, because through this area only, large portion of world trade happens, right? It passes. So if India builds a big, transshipment port over here, so what will happen? India can become a global shipping hub, right? So for trade, it is very, very important, very, very crucial for us, right? And it is also reducing dependency on ports like Singapore and Colombo also, right? So this is the second reason that why this place is important, why we want to build this project over here, right? And this is going to improve our naval and security presence in the Indian Ocean also. We'll have control of this portion, whole portion over here, right? So this is going to boost our economy and side by side trade also, right? So this project is important, in the context of economic also, strategic wise also, and for the defense purposes also. This project is very important, very crucial for us. Now, if this project is so important, then what's the issue we are facing? The issue is of environment. So basically, basically when we talk about environment, right? When we talk about development, the crisis always happens, right? And we mostly move with the sustainable development, but then again there is a portion of the society which is never happy with that, because we have to focus on long term also, and we have to focus on environment also. So when the crisis, when the dilemma happen between these two, and UPSC loves these kinds of dilemmas, so make sure that you are understanding that what kind of approach, what kind of keywords government is giving to you for this paper. Now, these environmental groups and these local communities, right, they are raising concern, right? So what is the concern? What are environmental concern that we have? So first is that coral reefs will be damaged, right? And the second reason that I told you, that it is very famous because of rare turtle species. So nesting site of these leatherback turtles, which are very rare, they will be destroyed, right? Uske baad mein these coastal basically erosions, they will also increase, right? तो हमारा जो large forest है, like of India, basically this land will be like clear, right? उसके बाद में सबसे ज्यादा important, the most important concern that is coming around is of tribal concern, right? So there are local tribal communities which are residing here, right? We have Nicobarese and we have like Shompen. So they says that their consent is not properly taken, right? They were not told before, right? And their basically, forest rights are not settled in this deal, in this project, right? So this is the concern that these environmentalists are bringing up, right? Okay, now to this, let's understand that exactly what decisions are taken, what government is saying. So we'll understand each and every one approach. So now what happened that many people went to NGT, right? And they said that, this great Nicobar project that you are, telling to improve. So this is giving and this is damaging environmental in, many ways. And not only environment, basically it is damaging, forest life also and tribal communities also, right? So they are saying that please stop this project. So after hearing this, government and experts and activists, right? So the NGT says that yes, environment is very important, but so is development. So this project is also very important for India's national security and for economic future also, because we have to focus on what? We have to focus on long-term development, right? So NGT did not stop this project, right? It says that government already gave environmental clearance in 2022, right? Already we have like given it, right? तो व्हाट दे आर टेलिंग टू अस कि वो ऑलरेडी हमने बता दिया, क्लियरेंस मिल चुकी है, राइट? एनवायरमेंटल क्लियरेंस मिल चुकी है 2022 में, राइट? आफ्टर दिस देयर वाज हाई पावर्ड कमिटी आल्सो दैट वाज सेट अप इन 2023, राइट? दे ऑलरेडी studied these coral reefs, they understood turtles, the ecozones, all the measures regarding these are already taken, right? So there is no strong legal reason to cancel this project completely, right? So to this the government said that project can go ahead, right? But there is one more thing, one important thing, that NGT did not, give this clearance just like that. There are some measures, there are some legalities that basically this project have to, follow, right? So they basically, this is said that, this tribunal said that we will follow development, but only and only if environment is protected properly, right? So it gave very strict conditions to it. What are the conditions? First one we have is, coral reef protection. So first one is this coral reefs protection. So they are basically saying that they must not be damaged, right? And if any damage is happening, then scientific and coral regeneration must be done, right? Then the second one is turtle nesting, right? This rare species, this rare turtle, they should also be protecting, right? These leatherback turtles, which are very important for us, which are very rare species, basically they nest here. Their nesting, basically, beaches must be protected at any cost, right? After this, these coastal erosions, the coastal erosion, which are another important part. So it is said that this construction should not damage any coastline. Government must continuously monitor these, changes, right? After this environmental monitoring plan, environmental ministry makes a very proper implementation plan, right? So all the condition of environmental clearance must be followed very strictly, right, and properly. Now, what are the approaches that are not taken? So, NGT follows a balanced approach here, sustainable approach here. It means what? Development is needed. We are going to do that, yes. But environment also must be protected, right? So, this is known as what? This is known as sustainable development approach. I hope this is understood. Now, after this, there is one more thing, this legal and this, policy background, like what are the changes, what are the things that government is including. So this project is governed under ICRZ notification. Right? So what is this? This is Island Coastal Regulation Zone rule, right? It is also connecting us with environmental impact assessment, that is EIA, right? I've told you before about this, right? So we are going to talk about forest clearance laws also, forest rights acts also, right? Especially for the tribal consent, right? Because when we talk about these development, tribal consent is not taken, and this is the core major issue we often see when these kinds of basically project comes up, right? Now, there are few more controversies which are still there, which basically are not mentioned by government, and many of the articles are missing it. So listen very carefully. So first of all, even after NGT is approving this, many issues are still not solved. First of all, forest clearance case. What is the first one? First is forest clearance case. Okay. So when we talk about this, what is happening? This, even though the environmental clearance is approved, right, the forest clearance case is still pending and still being challenged in Calcutta High Court, right? So legally, this project is not 100% there. It's not 100% implemented, right? Because the court, basically court case is still going on, right? The second thing is environmental study issues, right? This IEA controversy which I just told you. So normally law says that for any big projects like ports, airports, power, basically, all these things, right? The government must do an environmental impact assessment. EIA होना बहुत जरूरी है उस चीज के लिए, right? So with this study checks that if any forest will be damaged or not, right? If basically animals will be affected or not, right? And coastline, right? About the pollution increase also. So these studies shows and basically tells us that if we can move ahead with this project or not, right? So if basically these are the problems arising, then there are solutions, certain solutions that are basically given, right? So the study should be done across 3 seasons, right? Excluding monsoon, right? So in this project, 3 season basically study should be done, right? But in this case, the EA has done only basically 1 season of like study, right? And this created a big controversy, big challenge. So to this, what government replies? Government says that because Andaman and Nicobar Island is basically not in a high erosion zone, so this 1 season data is well enough, right? So we do not need another 2 seasons of data in this, right? So this is a major scientific debate that is happening with environmentalists and between the government, right? Other third important cheese, very important, tribal communities, right? Tribal right issues. So as we know that there are two tribal communities that are residing there, so they are saying their consent was not taken, right? They were not basically asked that if they can, like, they are basically making this big project in their home, right? So their forest land rights are not basically coming under this, they are not settled. So this is creating legal issue also, right? Under Forest Right Act, FRA, right? After this we have PESA, like protection, right? Self governance of tribal areas are also there. So they are basically arguing that this project is violating our constitutional rights, our legal rights, and they should be mentioned, but they are not settled yet, right? So this is the real debate that is happening, right? So this great Nicobar project is debate between India's development and very important thing, that is national security. On basically, this environmental protection, right? And this tribal rights on the other hand. This is what, creating the big controversy on this project. I hope, did you understand? So we have this one question. Please write the answer in the chat box and then we'll discuss this question. So this question came in 2022 to 2020. Okay, with reference to the National Green Tribunal (NGT), consider the following statement. NGT was established under the National Green Tribunal Act 2010. The tribunal has jurisdiction over cases relating to environmental protection, forest, and biodiversity. Third, the NGT can hear appeals against environmental clearance granted under the Environmental Protection Act 1986. So the correct option is 1, 2, 3. Why? Because it was established, under NGT Tribunal Act 2010, and it basically protects all the, forest and biodiversity, and it can hear appeals against environmental clearance granted under the Environmental Protection Act, that is 1986. Okay. Another news, Supreme Court refers to Constitution bench on whether DPDP laws uses privacy to dismantle people's right to know. Just few months back, I covered this news that there is a new policy, new law that is coming, DPDP, and the issue is arising between right to information and between this, as these are somewhere aligning, right? This is the controversy that this news is creating. Now, first of all, let's understand that what is RTI, what is DPDP, right, and why we are facing issue in this. Now, imagine that there is a classroom where two students are arguing, and one is saying that, my personal information is private. Nobody like should see it without my permission, right? So the other one says that, but people have a right to know information, right? Especially if it is concerning public matter, right? If it is coming under the public matter, so you have to like reveal the information. You have to tell it, right? So especially if it is like concerning, if we are like talking about this public matter or basically government challenges, government functioning, then you have to tell us, right? So the same argument is basically happening over here also, right? So this argument, he reached the highest classroom of India, the Supreme Court of India, right? Now, recently, what happened? Supreme Court basically looked into this manner. The problem which was arising, this DPDP, that is Digital Personal Data Protection, that happened in 2023, right? So some people are basically saying that this law protects privacy, but it might also hide, important information from the public. Why? Because why RTI was made? So that we can have transparency between government, right? But now DPDP is talking about what? About the privacy, right? So basically the, controversy, the problem is arising between two, right? Because there is not a balance between these two, right? If we are asking to the government that, we want some data, now government basically can say that I will not give data under this act, this DPDP. Why? Because this is my privacy, I will not reveal it under this act, right? So being citizen, this is somewhere injustice to me, right? So this is what this news is mentioning to us. Now let's understand that what Supreme Court is saying. So Supreme Court is now going to decide a very serious constitutional issue, that can the Supreme Court use privacy as a reason to refuse giving information to the citizens, right? So earlier what used to happen? You could file an RTI and ask the questions to the government, but now government can say that this is personal data, right? We cannot share it. Why? Because of privacy law that are coming under what? That are coming under this DPDP, right? So the court basically had to decide that which is more important, right to privacy is important or right to know is important, that is RTI, right? So we have to basically balance between two. Basically Supreme Court have to balance between two, right? Now let's understand that what exactly these laws are, right? So this new law, that is DPDP, right? So now this new law, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, that came in 2023, right? Now what it talks about, this law was made to protect citizens' personal data, right? Stop misuse of personal information, regulate that how government and basically companies use data. As I like told you that we are like covered with digital gadgets, right? Our information, our mail ID, our address, our name, each and everything was like there, right? So to protect us under that, to protect, basically our privacy, so what government did? Government made this new law, right? That if you do not want to share your data, then you can basically take these measures, right? You can basically ask the companies that where you will use my data, right? For how many times the data is going to be there, and if they are going to share your data, then they have to also tell that on what platforms they are going to share it, right? But earlier what was happening, the earlier, we had this problem that our data was like, circulating widely. Basically companies were using our data widely for advertisement and for different purposes, right? So this was very, very, we can say controversial and very unsafe for us, right? So to measure this, to balance this act was made, right? But now this is creating a problem with RTI also, right? Now there is a section, that is section 44(3). So earlier Right to Information Act 2005, right? So people could ask the government about the information, right? Even personal information could be given if there was a public interest, right? So this rule basically, even like personal and information, right? So this rule was like written in section 8 clause 1, right, of RTI, and it said basically that if information is not related to public work, then you can deny it. But if there is a public interest, then you have to give the information. But now there are few changes that we are seeing. What are the changes now? Now comes the new changes, new laws, that is Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. So under this law, section 44(3) changes the right to rule. New rule says that personal data cannot be shared under RTI. It means what? There will be no balancing test, right? No public interest overrides over here, right? So this is why people are calling it blanket ban, right? Why? Because it's covering it the real transparency, and it is covering basically government by showing the real data to citizens, which is their right under this act, right? Abhi Supreme Court mein kya ho raha hai? What is happening in the Supreme Court? So a 3-judge bench led by Suryakant, right? They heard the situation, they heard the case, and the court said that this issue is very serious, right? And it is constitutional also. So we have to take measure to it. So it has been like sent to a constitutional bench where more than 5 plus benches, judges are there, right? Because it is involving fundamental rights also, and there is like a balance which is needed to be like understand between these two important rights. I hope it is understood. Now what basically these petitioners are saying, what are the issues that these petitioners are basically facing? So they are saying that this law gives too much power to the government, right? it gives, unguided discretions to deny information, right? The accountability and the transparency that was given under, this RTI is somewhere destroying. So it is going to extend our privacy protection even to the state also, which is very very, dangerous in democracy, right? So they are arguing what, that earlier, basically we had this RTI, right, and there was a balance between privacy and transparency, but now this balance is destroyed, right? So to this, what government is saying, government is telling to us that yes, privacy is our fundamental right. Personal data must be protected. Sensitive data cannot be publicly shared. But they are also saying this one thing, that law is necessary in this digital age, right? As I said, that we are like sharing our lots and lots of information on these gadgets, right? And we know that, what kind of crime we are basically generating because of this information. So this is the core constitutional conflict that we are facing today, right? So this is the, core reason. So the reason is right to privacy that is recognized in 2017, right? And in Justice case for Putiswamy versus Union of India, right? So basically, in this case, court said that privacy is fundamental right that comes under Article 21, right? And then there is right to information, right? So this basically comes from Article 19(1), right? So freedom of speech, right? These expression. So because of it, to speak freely, you must have access to information. So RTI is important for not only transparency but for accountability, and a very important for, nation like India where democracy is followed, right? So now, what are the duties of government? What government basically have to decide? So government basically have to decide, how to balance between these two rights, right? It will like answer questions like that: can, privacy override transparency? Should public interest be, more important than anything, right? And then another thing, can government, hide corruption under this act using the data, using the act of privacy, right? This DPDP, right? So now let's understand that basically from where this RTI came. Now, let's understand that from where this RTI came, how it all started. So, this right to information idea did not start from government. It started from common people, right? It started from villagers. So, the most important group, that was Majroor Kisan Shakti Sangathan, MKSS I'm talking about. So, they said that, we want to see records of government spending, that we want to see that where our money is going, right? So they demanded wages list, they demanded public workers reports, right? They demanded wills and they demanded vouchers also. Why? Because corruption was happening in a lot of number, right? Road construction was not happening. Panchayat work was basically facing a lots of problem, right? So welfare schemes were also, somewhere, sidelined. So people said that, our money and our account, right? Hamara paisa or hamara hisab, right? These were the slogans that were basically, used at that time, right? So this became the foundation of RTI in India, right? Then we had RTI Act, that is 2005. So this revolutionary law was seen after lot of struggle, after long struggle, right? India passed this right. So this law basically gave power to citizens, right? Now this basically asked the government about the files, about the decisions, about the spending details, and about the records also, about the recruitment records also, right? So project they are going to pass, on what basis they are going to pass, right? What will be the, issue about the numbers, about the finance, about each and everything that government is going to use, money, right? Now, why is this RTI considered powerful? Because it is going to help you in fighting corruption. It is going to increase transparency also, and basically make officers accountable also, right? And not only that, as I mentioned you before also, this is going to strengthen our democracy also. So RTI is often called, sunlight law. Why? Because sunlight is giving us what? It is giving us transparency, right? And so does this RTI law. Understood? Now, when this 2017 this privacy judgment came, the Supreme Court basically, gave this justice, right? Basically judgment, right? So to this, basically court said that, privacy is a fundamental right, and it basically comes under what? Article 21, right to life and personal liberty, right? So this is why it becomes very, crucial and very important to us, right? So where, what are the problems that we are facing? So we are basically facing the problem with between this new act that came in 2023 and between this RTI, right? Now what government have to do? Supreme Court have to basically decide. Supreme Court have to now balance, right? That if we are focusing on privacy, or if we are focusing on transparency. right? So we have to basically balance between these two terms. I hope this is understood. Okay, now let's move to one question. With reference to the right to privacy in India, consider the following statement. Right to privacy has been recognized as a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. Right to information flows from Article 91A of the Constitution. The Constitution explicitly mentions the right to privacy as a fundamental right. Which one is correct?
A.
So the correct option that we have is D, 1, 2, and 3. Why 1? Because it says that right to privacy has been recognized as fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. It's correct. Why? Because this was clearly declared by the Supreme Court in like the famous case of Justice K.S. Puttaswamy, right? And versus Union of India. So first one is correct. After this, we have the right to information that flows from Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. So basically, it talks about that knowing information is part of expressing, right, and forming opinion, right? So this is why RTI becomes very important for us, right? So basically, second is also correct. Then the Constitution explicitly mentions the right to privacy as a fundamental right, right? So the Constitution does not explicitly, sorry, the answer will be 1 and 3. 1 and 2, sorry, 1. Okay. So when we talk about this third one, the Constitution explicitly mentions the right to privacy as a fundamental right. So this does not explicitly right to privacy as a fundamental right. It is basically interpreted by the Supreme Court, right? Not directly written in the Constitution. Okay. Now another news. India's federalism is in need of structural reset. Again, very important news. Now, let's understand this with an example that India is like a big family we are talking about. Okay, so this is like whole India, right? So there are family members over here, right? And in this family, the central government, that is union, is considered to be, you know the head of the family, right? And the states are like adult, like the children, right, who are managing their own home, right? So now according to Indian Constitution, what is happening, this family system is known as what? This family system is known as federalism, right? Right now we know that har ek ghar ka naam hota hai, right? Every like home have like name. So consider this like house name as federalism, right? Where powers is basically shared between center and between state. But the problem is arising that over the time the head of the family, right, has started taking more importance, had started taking more control, right, over these children, over these state, right? And they are feeling that we are not getting enough freedom, we are not getting enough money, right? So now what this news is telling to us, that India's federal system now needs a reset, right? Basically, a redesigning of how this power should be distributed, right? How this power and money both should be shared between center and between state, right? Now, this is the issue that we have. Exactly. Now, when we talk about this, what happens? You know, India is called a federal country, right? But in reality, power is slowly becoming more centralized in the hands of what? In the hands of union government, right? So somewhere experts and somewhere, these politicians and people and common people like us, citizens are basically feeling that India's federal system is basically in requirement of this structural change, right? In this structural reset, right? We need a major redesigning in this form now, right? So first of all, what is federalism? So federalism means that power is divided between center and state, right? Basically we are talking about, power of like their own areas of authority, right? So India's constitution says that India is union of state, but from the beginning India had like a strong center, and somewhere it is required also. But then again, the issue is that if like major power, right, more than major power is controlled by center, the responsibilities, the accountabilities, right, and the matter that should be like solved to the state only, that is concerning, right? That is coming to where? That is coming to the center, right? Now let's understand that what exactly the constitution is, what these acts are. So now India's constitution was influenced by what? Government of India Act 1935, right? So this act already had strong center, we had limited state powers. So when constitution was made, what happened? Leaders thought that for unity of India it is very important that center is strong, right? Why? Because India was newly independent, अभी अभी हाल ही में इंडिपेंडेंट हुआ था, राइट? रिसोर्सेज वी डिड नॉट हैव इनफ, राइट? Apart from this, उसके साथ में princely state was also the issue. Partition was just happened, right? And these partitions were not only partition, these princely states, right, they were also coming to merge, right? So dependency of them was also on the center. So this centralized was very important and was intentional on the basis of this. Why? Because these were the reasons that we had. Okay. Now let's understand that why this center is strong. Now when we talk about this, India is known as what? As federal in structure but unitary in spirit. What does this mean? It means that power is divided between center and state, but in important stations center becomes stronger. So this was done intentionally, as I told you reasons also, right? So as I explained you that during the time of independence partition was basically done, right? More princely states were basically coming up, right? So this is why it was very very important to do this, right? So India needed a strong center to maintain unity and to stability also. Why? Because these princely states were merging, right? So there was no concept of unity, right? As in princely states, what happened? They wanted to make their community, their region, their location to be superior, right? But recently independent country cannot afford this, right? Why? Because we had limited resources also, we could not afford another conflict like this, right? So what did we do? We basically set one power where we had like most of the decision making done over there, right? Now when we talk about this, there are some features that we have to discuss about. First of all, union list is larger over here, right? We have like government is appointed, governor is basically appointed by the center, right? Emergency provisions were also decided, right? So India's federalism is like called quasi federal, right? Why? Because it has like both federal and it has like unitary features also, right? Okay, that is one important thing that basically Supreme Court has like told us. Now in SR Bhumi versus Union of India, they basically court said that federalism is part of basic structure of constitution, right? And states are not servants, है ना? They are independent with their sphere. Now what is the current problem? The current problem that we are facing is that it is basically seen that center is holding lots and lots of power in here, right? There are three big main issues that are basically mentioned. So first is financial control by the center, right? So center is collecting more and more taxes, GST is there, income tax is there, right? So state is somewhere dependent on these centers for money also, right? So money is given with conditions to them, right? With basically schemes, we can say. So state is somewhere feeling that we have responsibility but we do not have enough money, right? In the last class also we have discussed that how the distribution is done on the basis of area, geographical areas also, right? On the basis of population, right? And on the basis of reports also, right? So in these bases, we are basically dividing this money. So somewhere states are facing this financial control by center. They feel that the power is basically a lot to the center. Then the second problem is centrally sponsored schemes. So for example, we have this PM Awas Yojana, right? This Jal Jeevan mission was also there. Swachh Bharat mission was also there, right? So these are designed by whom? By center. So now center have to do what? Center have to basically, use these missions, right? Basically implementation is done by center only, right? Now they have to follow these fixed rules. So this is reducing state flexibility also, right? So they are basically fearing that because these sponsored schemes are coming from center, right? So somewhere they are lacking, right? The core, understanding, the core problem is understood by whom? By state. So they are basically asking that this indulgement of scheme sharing should be done by state also. ठीक है? क्यों होना चाहिए वो? क्योंकि अगर कोर प्रॉब्लम किसी को पता है स्टेट में, ठीक है, लोकल बॉडीज के बारे में अगर पता है, लोकल प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में पता है, कोर रीजंस के बारे में पता है, So that is basically understood by these states only. ठीक है, centers कोई scheme कैसे decide कर सकती है, right? Another important thing is political and institutional control, that is state complaining. Now they are basically complaining about governance interfering also, right? About delay in fund release, which is very very important. After this use of article 356 in past, what happens here, there is empowerment that the president can impose president rule on a state if the government cannot function according to the constitutional provision, right? So there's somewhere they are feeling that center can do it like whenever they are feeling. This is like inferior, right? They are showing themselves to be more superior, right? So these kinds of articles, these kinds of acts, these kinds of schemes are basically making them inferior. They are like feeling that we are not getting this division of power properly, right? This is not a balance we are basically seeing between center and between state, right? Now as we understood that the power is somewhere shifting a lot towards center, right? And these are the complaints that we have from like state, right? Now let's understand that what is the solution that we have. So first solution is reform finance commission system. What it means, so basically this news is basically giving us solution. First is structural rest, basically on the federalism. It means what, that a redesign system to make it more balanced, right? Higher share and taxes should be there, less conditional funding should be there, right? And not only that, more flexibility in spending should be there, right? It's not that they have given the money, right? But that should be according to the state also. State should basically center should basically ask that what kind of money you need, in what numbers do you need, what are the changes you will be bringing up. On the basis of that they should give it, right? So now second thing is okay, it's not mentioned in here. The second thing is about reform finance commission system, right? Now what is it, it basically talks about these finance commission decides that money sharing, right? So they are basically suggesting that you should make transfer more predictable, you should reduce these conditioning, right? Give states more voice, make them understand, right? Basically ask them that what is your requirement, ठीक है? खुद से ही डिसीजन लेने से कोई भी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं होगी. After this, true cooperative federalism is required. What is this? This means centers and states should like work as like a partners and not like boss and subordinate who basically is making rules and the another one is doing what, is following them, right? So there should be like understanding of institution also, right? You have to basically include in a state council also. They should be like used more and more effectively, right? After this, what is the fourth thing? Fourth thing is limit misuse of institution, right? You have to reduce political misuse of governor's office. You have to reduce this central agencies that center comes up with, right? So that federal trust can increase between center and between state. I hope this is understood. So what did we understand from this? That India's federalism is somewhere becoming centralized, right? And there is a requirement of structural reset, right? So that we can have balance between union and between the state also, right? Now we have understood with an example, like there is a family business going on, right? Center is who? Center is head of the family, state is adult and children, right? So if one person is controlling all money, right, and decision making is done by that person only, that head of the family only, right? So others are basically feeling ignored. They are basically going against the concept of harmony. So power and responsibility must be shared between center and between state. And this is a very obvious also in the like previous time when basically budget was shared. This was seen that how many states were unhappy with the center decision also, right? I hope the news is understood to you. So this is the one question that we have for the homework. Please see it and write the answer in the chat box. So this is it for today. I'll see you tomorrow at the same timing. And one more thing, if you want PDF, then you'll get access of PDF in the comment section. So I'll see you tomorrow at the same timing, 8:10 a.m. Thank you so much.